There are reasons to look at the Somali community, but the reason we're focused on this criminal case is because the massive scale of this criminal case and the convictions.
Yeah, so Grid, you brought up the you don't like the asylum system here. It seems like there's a lot of fraud going on with this group of people. What would you prescribe to this situation? Do you want to kick everybody out that's a Somalian?
Oh, I just think that if they're going to come here, they should follow the law. And what we actually, these investigations are showing is that they came here as an asylum seeker, and the law is really clear that they have a 1 year to file for asylum. If they don't do that, then they're here illegally. And apparently, there's a large percentage of these Somalis who have been given extensions, which, by the way, don't legally exist. That's not in the code. But they've been given these extensions so that they have not yet actually filed for asylum.
But to be clear, you're referring to Somalians who are not involved in this fraud case. You're just extending to Somalians broadly and talking about immigration.
I'm just looking at the percentage of Somalis. I mean, I don't know how many of them are involved in the fraud.
I go further.
Most of the people that were involved in a fraud,
70-something.
Most of the people that were involved in a fraud are American citizens. Also, fun fact: the ringleader, the founder of Fund Feeding Our Future, is a white American woman, and that never gets mentioned for some reason.
No, that's not true. In fact, they named the case after her. It's Amy Buck. I specifically said.
When did it get mentioned in this?
It hasn't come up today.
Before I did.
Well,
when I said would you like me to answer? When I said in my opening statement that of the people convicted, all but 2 were Somalians, that would imply that 2 of them weren't Somalian, right?
Sure, but nobody has mentioned that the founder, the ringleader, was a white American woman. But of course, it's irrelevant to the conversation for people who just want to attack Somalians. But that's neither here nor there.
We're talking about the people who have not yet been convicted, and the ones that have met with Waltz. Her name has not come up in Waltz's phone records, but all of these other names have. Therefore, her name is irrelevant to this conversation, other than you wanting to throw white people in there to make.
Yeah, she's a Jew.
Wait, but Grid, that's like
you're the real racist liberal.
It's Jewish.
It's like saying Pablo Escobar isn't important because his underlings were the ones being indicted.
I don't see why the fact that these people are Somalians are even important to the conversation.
But there's two reasons that it's important to the conversation. Number one is because it shows this insulated group that is balkanized and sort of ghettoized and came together to all be in one area. And yes, there's other problems independently with things they're doing when it comes to abusing the welfare system, taking more out than they're putting in, have massively different culture. However, the part of it that matters for this discussion is it's easy for fraud to occur in these sorts of communities because these people don't really understand the federal system that much. They sort of just understand what's going on. In fact, I was reading from an expert at the Heritage Foundation that talked about this, how a lot of times these communities are engaged in this sort of stuff because the people that are leading those communities know that these average people aren't even going to understand how these programs go. Here, just sign this fucking paper here. It doesn't matter. They don't know what's going on anyways. They're listening to their community leaders. So the fact that these Somalian community leaders were engaged with this fraud is something that happened exclusively because they're Somalian. The other reason that this would matter is there are allegations that one of the reasons that the Walz administration and Keith Ellison and company didn't act sooner was because they were both simultaneously afraid of being called racist and that they wanted to pander to the Somalians in that state, and they were afraid that if they aggressively went after Somalian community leaders that they would lose their re-election. So for both of those reasons, the fact they're Somalian matters.
And we can
so the point one that you made,
just to clarify something for my own sake, is this separate from the autism thing? The autism.
So there's 3 different organizations that were involved, I believe, and one of them was involving autistic children. And like Rob said, I will agree with him here. Like there were people who were being victimized, right? People being taken advantage of, who had like autistic children, and these people, they claimed to be helping them, and they were using their name to enrich themselves. And those people are facing charges and being convicted. So the system seems to be working as appropriately.
These are, but
so I just want to say to Rob that there's one thing about the first point you made that I guess I don't want to say take issue with, but I think you can claim that immigrant communities, and it's not just Somalians, do this a lot. There are Hispanics who have taken advantage of Medicaid fraud in South Texas that I've read about. Ukrainians, Russians in New York who do the same thing. They get, they commit fraud all the time. I think the reason why this whole Somalian debate is more interesting is because Trump has gone after them specifically, and you haven't heard about other communities that are more pro-Trump being talked about in this way that have committed fraud in the past.
Which
before.
one of these
so I think that's where.
No, I'll accept this if you could tell me which mass migrant community is more pro-Trump.
Hispanics are very pro-Trump.
You
in
think
Miami,
recent Hispanic immigrants, ones that have just came, you think they're pro-Trump? For example,
wait, why do they have to be recent though?
Because I don't.
These people weren't recent. Wait, these people.
Yeah,
weren't
you added
recent.
that after the fact.
Let me explain what I mean by
Also
recent.
true.
What I'm saying is someone that's like fourth generation Hispanic that's upset about mass illegal immigration. I don't think these are the people that are traditionally balkanizing and committing fraud. Those people that are likely to be Hispanic.
But we have proof of people in New York, people in South Florida, South Texas who are committing fraud. I don't know why it matters that they're fourth, second, 18th generation. Like, these are communities that are committing fraud. I think we should all go after that.
There's another community with $1 billion of fraud and links to terrorism.
I'm
Which
willing to
community
hear
is that?
And hold on.
Wait, there is no link to terrorism.
Links are
Yes, there is.
not supported yet, but
They
it
are
could be.
currently
Hold on,
looking into the
guys
link
are
to terrorism.
ignoring
Yes.
this pattern of
Right, they're looking into it, but there's no
that
like
is
actual
the
link.
problem. They have you have just recently it's recently been decided, but it's been going on since it looks like about 2017. There's a case. I'm going to just pick one case because it's illustrative, where the Somali guy has raped multiple people. He was let go with time served because his religious leader wrote a letter to the judge that he just didn't understand American customs and hadn't acclimated yet. And he just didn't understand that it was wrong to harm these women. And the judge released him with time served. And it's because of actions like that by our legal system favoring, which I believe goes to Rob's point of nobody wants to piss these guys off. They're pandering to them.
What's the name of the guy you're referencing?
Abdemahat Billy Muhammad, 28, was charged by complaint. And this is coming from the Office of Public Affairs, U.S. Department of Justice.
So
Was he charged or convicted?
You're saying a
charged
small group
federally
of
now.
people with like minds in the United States banded together for political power and got some political sway. You're telling me the system's working as it should, right?
Also, I want to go back to what Castle said here for a minute, right? When I take what and it seemed that you agreed with Radical Coda there somewhat, that talked about immigrant communities being taken advantage of. Can you explain how that works real quick? Either of you want to explain how that works? Like, what is it uniquely about immigrant communities that allow people to take advantage of them? Give me some of the characteristics that would allow it.
Well, I don't know if I said, go for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing could be limited English.
Now, do you
example?
think the people that have limited English that are Hispanic are Trump voters?
A surprising amount, probably, yeah.
No,
But
I think that
don't know numbers off
when
the top
we
of my head.
talk about naturalized Hispanic citizens that tended to slightly go for Trump, I think what you'll see is a lot of those people are people that are more interested in assimilating. Particularly, we're going to see that groups that are rife with taking government money and like money that's coming through these NGOs, probably these groups that are engaged in this fraud, even if they're Hispanic or any other ethnicity, probably aren't the biggest Trump supporters. Right? Because the mere fact that Trump's someone that's trying
numbers
to
on this, or are you just riffing?
Well, I think that it makes sense intuitively. One, if the reason that
They're
they're being
riffing.
I mean, again, we know the old game. So much of dealing with liberals is them pretending to not know things, thus making discourse impossible. Is anyone here other than Radical Coder going to reasonably disagree that if you are an NGO that's engaged in fraud, that's reliant on mass amounts of government money being sent your way for these programs, that you would be more likely en masse to support the guy who's promising to stop the funding to the NGOs? Anyone gonna make that argument?
Rob, your excuse is that if you are an immigrant but you like America, the fraud that you're committing is better if you hate it than if you hate America. That's like the dumbest argument ever. There are Russians in New York who have been committed.
I'm not really sure that's the argument.
Where did I remotely say that?
That's what he said.
You're making the
I do think
argument.
that, Rob,
You're making the argument that in a in a case where there's been convictions, which you all, part of the other side's argument on this is the investigation started under the Biden administration, correct?
Well, we
Sure.
said the investigation started with the DOE
During the Biden
under Tim
administration,
Walz.
right?
During, well, I don't think any did. Maybe somebody brought up Biden.
Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is your argument is the reason we're hyper focused on this is basically because Trump is a racist and wants to attack the Somalian community. Not that this is one of the most amounts of convictions we've had on corruption of such a grand scale. You're like, nope.
Then let the case go through, Rob. Just let the case go through.
Okay,
Yeah,
why are
also-
you? Wait. If that's the argument, that the things I'm saying here shouldn't be said because instead I should wait for the case to go through before I say anything, why did you agree to come on this panel?
Wait,
You're
nobody's
talking
saying
I want
about
to
it
see what
before the
dumb
case
shit
went
argument you
through?
came up with.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that people.
You don't have a case here, Rob. There's
What
no.
is-
There are
Steal
people who have
man-
been indicted, and
steal man my
there's
argument.
evidence that.
I want you to steel man my argument that I've said that I don't have a case for it. Go ahead.
Because you already said you don't know if Tim Walz has been involved. We all just agreed about that.
What are you talking about? Like, I didn't say we don't know if Tim Walz has been involved. I said we don't know that it rises to the level of criminality. However, it's completely
Okay,
fair
it's
to
not a
say-
crime. Okay,
Let me
but that's the whole
let me
point of the
finish.
case.
Let me finish, right? We admitted that. Ryan admitted it. And now you're
That
saying,
wasn't
so
actually
you
the
guys
problem.
just need to be quiet until after the case. But we're specifically saying, yes, we're not accusing him of criminality until after the case. So what are you telling me to be quiet about?
Yeah, this isn't a panel
Rob,
about
that's
whether
fine.
Tim
Who
Walz
told you to
is
be quiet?
charged.
Wait, who told you to be quiet?
He said
This is
that
all
I
just
should
a
just wait.
sideshow.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, I didn't tell you to shut up.
I mean,
Let me just
honestly,
argue about it, but I'm just
nobody
saying,
did
hey,
that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Nobody
Mr.
puts
Malloy.
Rob Noir in a corner.
If we,
Hold on, Mr. Malloy, you go ahead, and then I'm going to reframe it. I think. Go ahead.
I think if we cut through all the noise, and there's a lot of noise on issues like that, like this, and people are people say stuff, Trump says stuff, everybody's sounding off and getting their sound bites. What do we really know? We have a community in Minnesota that's grown exponentially because of the TPS program. This is since the 90s. We've been relocating people from Somalia to places like Minnesota because of the various crises that have happened in that country. Now what we've seen is a mass scale fraud, and we've seen long-term data that there's disproportionate use of welfare, SNAP, other programs within this community. And if you set aside all the noise, what was Trump's real response? He's stopping the TPS program because he doesn't think it's in the best interest of the country. This isn't like a wildly insane policy. I think this is kind of.
Let's point to another
He's
part of
literally
response, right?
targeting-
Let him finish.
Not
Let him
working.
finish. Let him finish. Go ahead.
I thought he was done. Yeah, my bad.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So I just want to point to another part of Trump's response to all this, which is to talk about Ilhan Omar alleging, again, with as much evidence as Rob has here, alleging that she married her brother, talking about how her turban and then having his crowd. I'm sorry, can I finish? Because Trump is bringing it up. The president of the United States is bringing it up, and that's why I'm referencing it right now. So, and that's what I'm talking about. So Trump mentioned the brother thing, talks about her wearing a turban, and talks about how she needs to be sent back, and has his whole crowd at his rally just a few days ago chanting "Send her back," which is pretty concerning.
That's
So,
I don't have a
okay.
problem with it.
So no response to the.
Yeah, I got
really?
I
brought
you,
up?
Ryan. I want to
Yeah.
respond to Ryan. Ryan, you're more attacking compassion-based immigration, more saying essentially without saying that merit-based immigration would be a better way to go. Compassion-based immigration is why we brought them in. It's more just left-wing versus right-wing policy preferences, and I can make that argument if we want to go that route with the panel, because at the end of the day, the things that we're saying about this group of people. There's another group of people within the United States that since the founding have received adversity. They're one of the most persecuted people in the world. And a major accusation is they have dual loyalty to another religious group. And it's the Catholics, the Papists. Benjamin Franklin did not want those filthy Papists in our country. And there was a massive movement to keep them out because of these giant monolithic arguments that we're making. I think that we need to do compassionate-based immigration, at least to some degree, because a lot of these Somalis are victims, even if they are on welfare slightly more often.
And again,
I just don't think that
Go ahead.
I just don't think that being Somali just makes you more prone to committing fraud. I don't see the evidence. It's just like this one case. Most of them are from Somali descent.
Well,
But
you
they've also
don't
been
see
in
the evidence
America
because that was. You don't see the evidence because that wasn't the argument.
Correct.
The argument was that this fraud has shed a light on this community, and that the data from this community shows a wildly disproportionate drain on state resources, on government funds, on enrollment in welfare programs, enrollment in SNAP programs, etc. And the question that begs is it in the United States' best interest to continue programs that incentivizes the immigration of Somalis into the country going forward? President Trump's answer was no. We should stop doing that, at least in part, while we figure out what's going on and what's not working.
Right, because the people receiving the welfare, the people receiving the welfare weren't the ones committing the fraud. The people receiving the welfare weren't the ones committing the fraud.
But you're conflating issues. You're conflating issues. If I'm
I think that was a direct response to what he said.
No, what Ryan is saying is this. There's all sorts of questions about this community, right? There is the fact that there's massive cultural differences where we have like imams with calls to prayers on the streets. The demographics have changed rapidly, right? Now these people are getting political power in the area, and they've all but taken over certain areas of Minnesota. Not only is their cultural massively different, which I don't give a shit, you could call me racist, I don't want to see Islamic culture dominate places of the United States. I don't like it. I think our culture is better, so that's something that we're right to raise our eyebrows. Just like Tyler points out, it's something during the election of JFK that people said, is there a concern that you have priorities to other countries first? And we certainly see people in the Somalian community in Minnesota, including allegations of people like Ilhan Omar and others that have seemed to suggest that they heavily concerned about what's going on in Somalia as a first priority. We have no problem with lefties, and I agree with them many times, saying, wait a minute, is this person have dual loyalty if they're Jewish and they're talking about Israel and the need to benefit Israel? Lefties have no problem saying, yes, that's right, that's fair game. Same question here. So in these questions that Ryan points out, where we have that Somalia has high crime rates, there's all sorts of problems with like issues with assaults on women and things like that. There are low IQ rates that mean that people aren't capable of being productive in higher level jobs, high unemployment in Somalia, all of these things. Then we mass import these people that are so culturally different than us, and now we find out after being called racist for years and years that yes, our gut feeling was correct. They have balkanized. They are not. Let me finish.
I disagree with. I don't think. Well, you have gone on so long about 8 different things.
Fine, I'll finish because you keep conflating issues. So we see that actually these people, unlike we were told we were racist for noticing, are using welfare far more than average Americans. On top of all of this, now we see this criminality that's occurring in the Somalian community, and people like you that I assume you hate white people and hate U.S. citizens are like, we shouldn't talk about this. We shouldn't talk about this. We shouldn't talk about this because it's racist to talk about Somalians in any way that's negative whatsoever.
Okay, no. Here's the thing. Nothing you said is inherent to being Somalian. The crime that we are saying that we are saying is real, that isn't inherent to Somali. Them being Somalian doesn't make them more likely to commit those crimes. It was a white woman, American, that ring-led all of this.
I don't know how to make this
about that woman being white.
I want you to
that made her more likely to be a
leader. Punishment. He wants to do collective punishment. Just say it, Rob.
All right, hold on.
Let me finish the point, Gibbs. I'm willing to shut up the rest of the time.
Yeah, make a few more points.
If you could tell me one time that me or Ryan or Tyler, and I don't think Grid said this either, have said being Somalian makes you more likely to commit fraud like this. Go ahead and show us where someone said that.
That's definitely what you're heavily incredibly. If you didn't say it straight out, you're heavily insinuating.
No one is
insinuating.
No, bullshit.
You also just made a lot of shitty claims about Somalia.
Why does them being Somalian matter about this fraud case? Why does them being Somalian matter at all?
We already explained.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to go to Castle. Hold on. I'm going to go to Castle. I'm going to go to Castle next. I think that but I do want to say I think it matters because one, it's a lot of Somalis. Two, it's all the things that Rob just said.
It's like 80 out of hundreds of thousands.
Sure. And then you keep bringing up the welfare, right? These are Somali welfare programs going to Somalians, right? That's who it's supposed to be helping. Well, here's a negative. If we're having to take taxpayer dollars and give it to another group of people because they can't provide for themselves, is that like a quality that's like good or bad? Like, that's not a good thing.
I think that Somalians are the only ones that are on welfare. We take taxpayer dollars and give it to everyone.
That's not liberal. Yeah, but that's
look, 81% of Somalis in Minnesota are on welfare. That's the point.
Yeah, can I simplify this a little? Can I simplify this a little bit?
81%.
No, literally nobody is arguing for collective guilt. What the point I made is that this fraud shed light on an ongoing problem, which includes overly high, disproportionate use of government services within a community, and Trump's actual policy response, not his rhetoric, not what he said at a rally, not what he said online, but his actual policy response was to say, if that's the case, why do we have a special program that is designed and in fact has been mass importing people from Somalia since the 90s? If it is leading to this result, that might not be worth doing. That does not mean that they can't apply for asylum. That does not mean that they have like some inability to access the country compared to any other nation. It means that the special program that gave special benefits to this country in particular is going to be curtailed because it's not in the best interest of the country. And that doesn't seem like a crazy thing to do.
If the basis for that is
I like that. I like that. But so
go again. Hold on. Wait. But Castle, go ahead, Castle. He's been waiting. Go ahead, Castle.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. So I just wanted to say one thing to Ryan too, is that I think the one good point you did make up was that the amount of fraud in this case was $1 billion. That's the most fraud I think that you can point to from an immigrant group that really raises eyebrows. And it's valid to say that, we don't have any instance of any other immigrant group raising to that level. Where I took issue with that point, and then I think also to Rob's point, was that it's clearly targeted, and at least from the rhetoric from some of the people on this panel, that people feel like Somalians need to be addressed in terms of whether they should be allowed to stay in the United States or not. Now, in Florida, and I mentioned this before, there are large parts of Miami that are 80% Cuban, Venezuelan. Somalians make up 1% of the population in Minnesota. They're about 10%, or not even 10% in Minneapolis. So they're a very small part of the state itself. And I think there are other parts of the country, and there are other large cities, whether it's New York, Miami, Dallas, wherever you name it, where there are larger parts of the immigrant community that actually take over these cities. There's no Islamification of a majority white state and city right now going on either, but there's no issue with them because they're either Catholic, they're people that support Trump. And that's why my point earlier is like, there's fraud going on here too. There's welfare fraud going on, Medicaid fraud, healthcare insurance fraud. So there are things that are going on that I don't think are being addressed either because it's certain demographics that we don't take issue with because of this color of their skin, their religion, whatever it is. And I think that's a big reason why Trump is targeting them more than others. That's my only point.
Would it make you feel better if I told you that, like, if we had a special program that let people from my home country of Ireland into the nation, and it turns out that what the Irish were by and large doing with
we do that with Cubans and Venezuelans.
Let me finish the point. You were just talking. What they were doing with that special program was by and large taking advantage of the welfare system and being linked to $1 billion fraud, that I would think shutting down the special program that gives the country special benefits that no other country receives might be a reasonable response to that.
But shutting down the program is fine. But then you're talking about taking the Somalians themselves and kicking them out.
No.
Or denaturalizing them.
Feeding our future was not a special program just for Somalians.
Liberal Cluck, you have no idea what you're talking about in this debate.
I can get off this point if we're going to agree with this. We all agree that shutting down the TPS program for immigration that was bringing in people from Somalia is a reasonable thing for Trump to do. That's what Castle suggested.
Nobody all agrees.
We're all on board with that.
Wait. I thought you were talking about the
I disagree with that, but yeah, it's well
I don't think anybody on our side agreed with that.
Ryan, I wasn't agreeing to
he just said it, so that's why I'm trying to clarify.
No. I thought you were talking about the food bank that was committing fraud. I was like, yeah, you can shut that down. I think the TPS program, that's a different thing. But to your point about the TPS program, again, there are other people in this country, talk about Venezuelans, who have special programs and they're sending remittance back to their country, or they have special programs where they're committing fraud too, and that's not looked into the same way. That's all. So there's a double standard.
Guy, we're in an escalating armed conflict with Venezuela, and we're
bringing them in
under the Alien Enemies Act. There is no.
Do you know how many people? Getting more how many Venezuelans live in Florida right now who are coming over here for protected status? Cubans.
I mean, if I could, there's two things to say about this. First thing is, what we're saying and what liberal cluck's not understanding here, right, that goes along with this is there is a hyper focus on Somalian community for various reasons. One, the program that Ryan's talking about, that they get special status to come in. Second, because their culture is vastly different. Ryan, what's the name of the exact program that allows the Somalians to come over?
It's called TPS. It's a program that was it started in the 90s because of the various like famines in Somalia.
when you hear liberal cluck say that's not what Feeding Our Future was about, no one.
I will fully admit that I was misunderstood. I missed that part of the conversation, and I apologize.
Okay, so what we're saying is there's this hyper focus on Somalians because yes, they are vastly different culturally. It would be less of an issue if there were cultures coming in that were very similar. For example, if there were groups of Canadians that were balkanizing in cities, we would say, yeah, their culture's very similar to ours. We don't really see a difference. That doesn't make you racist to notice that there are things like people that are into Islam a lot and from cultures where crime is one of the top 25 worst crime countries in the world, where the average IQ of a Somalian, I think 68. That means that the average IQ of a Somalian this is the average, would qualify for mental retardation in the United States.
Rob, I just don't understand why this is relevant in the context of this fraud case that we're talking about.
It's relevant because
it is collective guilt. It is about collective guilt, and they keep admitting it and then pretending, and then they kind of shimmy and pretend not.
Let me just say something right now because Ryan.
I'm going to finish.
Wait. No, Rob.
Tyler's had his hand up for a while.
Hold on. All right. Rob, finish, and then we're going to go to Tyler, and then we'll go over back to y'all. Go ahead.
The reasons it's relevant.
Yeah, Rob, finish telling us about race and IQ.
The reason it's relevant is because your side said, you're only focused on this because of collective guilt against Somalians. And we're explaining, no, there are two issues. There are reasons to look at the Somali community, but the reason we're focused on this criminal case is because the massive scale of this criminal case and the convictions. That's why we're focused on.
That still doesn't answer my question. That's still not an answer.
That still has nothing to do with the people that you're like the TPS thing. None of those people who are I don't even know if any of these people came through TPS. And also, why would shutting this down have anything to do with that? That's what we're trying to ask.
Prove that the only reason we're focused on this is because they're Somalians. Go ahead.
Well, you're talking about the victims of this.
You literally just outlined 3 reasons why it's good to focus on them for being Somalians. So
I want you to prove your claims.
Rob, I can explain it to you right now. Tyler, I can explain it to you right now, Rob.
Go ahead.
Rob, there are 300,000 Venezuelans that we're currently at war with that Ryan just said we were at war with Venezuela that have TPS status. So why are we bringing Venezuelans?
I'm so glad you get it. I'm so glad
they probably want to punish them too.
Yes, no. Let me finish the point. Guess what country's TPS status has been revoked? Venezuela, because that's what happens when you have a problem with a country. They stop getting TPS
No, it's not.
status.
It's still in place.
Your entire point is just absolutely evaporated.
Hold on, we're going to go to Tyler after
all these countries exactly the same.